Greetings, everyone. This is the Cosmic Consciousness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel Sage. And today we have the pleasure of having a group of people that usually attend our monthly Lightworkers meeting. It's a meditation group that is interested in trying to help shift consciousness culturally, politically, economically, spiritually, not just in our own small community, but hopefully with ripples effect around the larger culture and world. So today, what we were going to plan to do is discuss a little bit about what cosmic consciousness means for us. Also discuss what maybe experiences that we've had that would correlate to our own understanding of cosmic consciousness. But first, I wanted to provide just a little introduction for each one of our participants, and then we'll kind of take the conversation wherever it leads us. So, as I said, I'm Dan Sage. Dr. Daniel Sage is the official title for the hosting of this podcast. And I am a former middle school teacher, former high school teacher, former college teacher and university professor, and a retired psychotherapist who's had experiences with this kind of phenomenon and have been interested in the life of the spirit and consciousness for many years. And so we've had a couple of groups formed around facilitating this kind of a conversation and interest among larger circles of people. So that's a little bit about me. And I guess I would just ask Pat if you would go next.
Okay. I'm a working economist. I have a background also in vocational counseling. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology and counselor education from the University of Colorado at Denver. I've been working as an economist for 18 years now, after I've morphed away from vocational counseling, and I am a Hermetic initiate, and I've been studying that for about 10, 15 years.
Thank you. And Cindy, would you like to go next? I'm not sure, but let me just check. Cynthia, are we getting any audio from you yet? No, okay, but that's okay. You can stay as a participant and give us a thumbs up or thumbs down based on whatever comments you agree with or don't agree with. So I'm sorry, Cindy, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Dan. I'm glad we sorted out some of the technical issues here this morning. Well, so I'm a fourth generation Montanan, and I mentioned that because that definitely framed my original worldview growing up on a ranch. But from that, I went on. I got my PhD at Berkeley. I am a scientist, very inquisitive. Even though I have this left brain centricness, I've always wondered and pondered the why and how of my existence, the reality around me, and what it's all about. So I always feel like I have one foot in philosophy, which is studying causes, and another foot in science, studying the effects. I've also been a professor at the University of Idaho in biochemistry and bacteriology. But really, I've been an entrepreneurial, independent scientist. And it's only in the last year that I've really fully had the opportunity to embrace a study of consciousness. And that's in large part because I've stepped away from my professional scientific life as the caregiver for my husband, who I hope doesn't pop in, who has frontotemporal dementia. And I really want to give a little shout out to Cynthia because one time in our meeting when I was sort of feeling sorry for myself about what am I going to do, she said, well, you're already doing it, and so that was so simple, but it was a real eye opener for me that, yes, this is what I'm doing now. I'm investigating consciousness and my own spirituality, because when you are um, gone through the process of becoming an analytical scientist, there's really no space for spirituality. And so I count this as a blessing. And I'm so happy to have met all of you and become part of this group.
And Kayleen, would you like to introduce yourself?
I feel like I should have introduced myself first because everybody here is PhDs, and I'm Kayleen Granado Nemechek. I work for a city and county, and I am middle management, so I manage a few people, some supervisors, and then their teams. Currently work within the realm of parking. So I shifted from a career in 911, which will make anybody, I guess, kind of head into the realm of consciousness. However, I've been like this for a long, long time, wanting to. I knew at a very young age that something was different for me as far as cosmic consciousness goes, but that is just my introduction. So happy to be here. Interested to see where our conversation takes us.
Good, great.
I do have a BA though in psychology.
That's even better. In fact, I did a podcast not too long ago with a very good friend who happens to be Native American. And I said, I'm sorry that I know that my education and advanced degrees often get in the way of, deeper, more profound understanding. And I didn't mean that in a joking way, even though it kind of came out as a joke. And she recounted that, one of her elders had uh, picked people that could be mentored that did not have the pollution of higher education and degrees. But
yeah, no, I think people hear titles and sometimes they get intimidated by those titles. It's kind of like, being at work. I'm a boss, so people, and I wouldn't say I'm a boss, I'm a leader. Let me rephrase that. I'm a leader. And I think people, hear those titles and they freak out, but I'm not freaking out.
Well, Cynthia, still no audio, is that correct? Okay, well, I'll give you just a little bit of background on Cynthia. Cynthia also has a PhD, and I knew her when I was teaching college, Community College Aurora, and she was a dean. And we just connected right away. And there are several experiences that I've had that have allowed us to kind of reconnect over a number of years of not seeing or hearing from one another. And one of the most important things I think about Cynthia in terms of this discussion about cosmic consciousness is Cynthia has actually died like 5 times and is fortunate to still be with us. She identifies herself as a New Age Baptist Buddhist, New Age Buddhist Baptist. I'm not sure exactly what order those come in, but that resonates with the nature of this group. There are a few members that weren't able to attend today that normally are participants in our Lightworkers group and our Institute of Noetic Science community group, but we're gonna have a conversation with the folks that are here. So the other question that I had asked that we kind of center on was, in your experience, what is a kind of a meaningful definition of cosmic consciousness for you, or at least what that has meant in larger conversations about spirituality, higher mindedness, all of that kind of stuff. So let's just kind of have a conversation about that, and I'll after we've maybe gone around the circle again, um, I'll provide what I have kind of come up with as a working definition, meaningful definition for me. So anybody that wants to jump in first, go right ahead.
Well, so I'm currently rereading Ernest Holmes' 1926 book, The Science of the Mind. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's massive. And he had a very simple definition of cosmic consciousness that might be a nice place to start, which is perception of the whole. So that's getting back to the, larger picture. And so it's transcending ordinary consciousness where you can elevate some reception to outside of yourself and your ego. It's really getting around your ego for me, and it gets back to your higher self and how you see your higher self as a aspect of your soul or a part of your soul that resides within you, and it's that part of you that can reach out and communicate either through other souls or cosmically. So that's sort of my simplistic, and I see it as a vertical path rather than a horizontal path, because our ego wants to keep us down here horizontally feeding what it wants, but it's really a vertical path through your higher self. That's my opinion.
Wow. That was really good. It's all about perception, but you have to uplift your perception above your ego, beyond your ego, because for most people, they live in a world of fear of death, fear of suffering, fear of privation, fear of whatever, not having enough, and they don't see beyond that. But there is a reality that's beyond that, and that is the perception of unity. But you have to silence yourself in order to perceive that. And once you have perceived cosmic consciousness, there is a permanent well of silence within you where you can connect to it again and again. Because we live in the mundane world, but we can transcend that. Did that make sense?
I don't know. I mean, to me, I think cosmic consciousness, I think Cindy was probably maybe, on the right path, like also. But I almost think I think maybe understanding the ego part of yourself and then realizing that there's more out there than just you or just your beliefs. Getting away from dogma, getting away from those how do I say, it's like the strict religious things, and coming to an understanding that we're all human and that there's something larger than us out there, whether it's God, whether it's energy, whether it's the universe, whatever you term it. But I think maybe cosmic consciousness is getting to the point where you get away from, not only do you nurture self, but you also get away from self and nurture the whole, if that makes sense. So for me, I think that's where it's at for me. So I kind of see where I think I'm kind of at a different stage right now within myself where I'm trying to get back to that whole, back to at the same time also taking care of myself and understanding myself and what I believe in, and then maybe getting up to that cosmic consciousness of understanding us all as a whole. If that even makes any sense. You know how you feel like you're talking and you're not sure if it makes any sense.
Yeah, that happened to me too.
Cynthia, I'm going to keep checking in. We still don't have audio from you, right? Okay, good. No, I really like what we're all after here. And again, there is a thread that I think um, is so similar in all of our understandings or experiences or definitions or whatever. Well, it came to me just recently that if we were to use the term God, God is actually a verb. Even when we have an understanding of those great Eastern mystics, particularly from Hinduism, that talk about reality is one, and that anything else is kind of a delusion or Maya, that I think science actually does help us move towards this more verb based perception of the whole. So, if we're going to use the definition that Cindy gave us, the perception, I like that perception of the whole. There is an energy field. Consciousness is like an energy field of the interaction between subject and object. And sometimes that maybe even be our own sense of identity or ego and some notion or experience of otherness. But cosmic consciousness is transcending that subject object dichotomy, and the experience, the perception experience that is verb based of wholeness. I think that's what cosmic consciousness is. So it would be, Buddha, Krishna, Christ obtained this perception experience, and then it became a living reality for them. So if there was a way in which we could take kind of these Romance languages, or particularly English language, and just put an ing behind it all and turn things into verbs instead of nouns, that would be closer to a cosmic consciousness, kind of an experience or understanding or absorption or attainment or realization, or
Or
however,
awareness.
awareness.
And
Yeah.
Cynthia did put something in the chat too.
Yeah,
That,
Oh,
yeah.
so let me get the
being in
chat room
touch
up
with the
on.
wisdom of the universe. Nice, Cynthia.
Now let me see if I can get my chat room up here. Oh yeah. Kayleen, you want to read that?
Yeah, well, yeah, Cindy just read it too. Being in touch with the wisdom of the universe. So that's Cynthia's thoughts on cosmic.
That makes sense because Ernest Holmes, you held up that book. I was kind of raised in the Mile High Church of Religious Science in the way back when. And, Ernest Holmes was, God, I forgot what I was going to say. Uh, it's, it's a, it's beyond, it's an awareness beyond. Okay. Reset the settings for Chrome.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry, I accidentally clicked on something when I was in the chat room.
oh yeah, that's okay. Um, I don't know. I was just going on. My tongue was leading a life of its own. Um, I think Ernest Holmes though had a great deal of wisdom in terms of just getting beyond the mundane I think it's vertical. Cindy had, when she talked about the vertical arm of the cross, as opposed to the horizontal arm, the
Oh,
vertical
that's
arm
so
is,
curious.
yeah, the vertical arm is prayer or Goding. I love that verb. So your prayer is anything that you do. I mean, any
Right,
action
right.
you
And
do, any
horizontal is just staying in the
yeah,
cul-de-sac. Yeah.
yeah. And then the benediction comes down from the top. And so the force that is the divine providence reaches down to you who have been reaching up to your higher self, and that joins. That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I think this whole discussion is challenging because of semantics and how, one word has so many different meanings and interpretations, just like you suggesting that God is a verb. Um, and I have to bring up the matter of quantum consciousness versus cosmic consciousness because, again, as a scientist, I've started out reading about quantum consciousness because there is scant evidence that it's something that actually is occurring in your brain, in your microtubules. In fact, there was a new publication last week in Science magazine, another incremental study along that line, and how is quantum consciousness really separate from cosmic consciousness, and is one a subset of the other? I mean, um, I think ultimately it's connecting, whether it's morphic resonance or a cosmic connection. It's just being aware that there's more to our existence and we have more resources than what we think just here in our mundane lives on Earth.
With this um, publishing of William James' Varieties of Religious Experience, that was my first real introduction to the historic legacy of mystics, in every religious tradition, but particularly, was aware of those in a vague way of the Christian tradition. Those people who have been anointed saints by the Catholic Church typically were mystics of some sort or another. But from all traditions, this mystic tradition, these mystics, it's amazing. The mystics always talk about how their experience is ineffable. You can't really put it into words. There's a world beyond worlds. And then, of course, they proceed to write volumes about that experience or attempt to write about it, and it turns into volumes. I like a little bit of what Franklin Merrill Wolff, who was a world famous mathematician, and he'd had his own um, mystic experience, or what he called the event of self-realization, recognition, that the disappearance of this, or the obliteration of subject and object, but that it is often more appropriate to think of this experience and try to express it as poetry. And I am no poet, but I do have friends, and one friend in particular who is a poet. And in fact, he's been a guest on this podcast a couple of times. And I think that's probably right. It may be music, any other kind of art form that transcends this just simple verbal expression that we always are using, even especially right now. I think of the body workers that I have had the privilege to have sessions with and have treatments with, and how the body heals most of the time, almost all the time, in nonverbal ways. So it's a little paradoxical to try to actually talk about our own experience of cosmic consciousness, but it's something I think that's absolutely necessary. It limits what the meaning behind it really is, but I think it's essential that we try that. So one of the things I'd like us to do is, if we have experiences that we would define or sense as something bordering on or something that is substantially, in essence, cosmic consciousness. If anybody would feel comfortable in about sharing some of those, or one in particular, one or more.
Well, I feel like I've had many episodic events that, looking back, that I would ascribe now to being a cosmic connection. And at the time, it was more of a just sense of this is what should happen, or this shouldn't happen, or be aware of this, or remember that, or, it's just some kind of clarity, or actually, and even more recently, it has to do with immortality. And in that, I don't know that I was ever fearful of death, but absolutely now I have no fear of death, and I welcome that experience because I see it as a transcendence in the awakening process. But this cultivating cosmic consciousness is a process. It's not easy, and that's one of the more curious things, is why it takes so much focus and dedication to reach that. But the one experience I will share was just been quite recently, is in this higher self foundational training I've been taking. We went through this whole process, and part of it was to get in an elevator and push the button 5 and ride up the elevator to the 5th dimension with one of your spirit guides, and step out and see, what do you see? And so that's could be 5 years in the future, or just this higher level of enlightenment. And for me, it was profound because when I stepped out, I didn't have a body. And so it sort of goes back to this immortality, that I felt the same. I felt alive, but I was diaphanous, like in the wind. And so was the spirit guide that was with me, who was Leonardo da Vinci, who is the spirit guide I've been introduced to. So that has been by far my most profound cosmic connection to a higher level of consciousness.
Well, I I can share something. Um, for me, this has been a process of spiritual alchemy. And one of the biggest things of alchemy is that you purify your soul. And your soul, you have an immortal flame that's your spirit, but your soul is your personality, your characteristics, your ideas, your emotions, right? And you want to purify your soul so that you transmute the vices that you have, like pride or anger or lust or whatever. Um, you transmute those into their corresponding virtues. And humility, I think, is the key. To be truly humble is to create a well of silence within yourself, and then when you reach out and try to connect to the Godhead, whatever that looks like to you, you connect with the Godhead, and you go into a sort of, in my discipline, it's called Akashic trance. You go into uh, just kind of a cosmic awareness that is beyond you. And that is where you experience that perception. But Cindy's right. It takes years. It's not, this is not an easy thing to connect with the Godhead is difficult because your soul has to be pure. It has to be transparent. So in my wisdom literature, which is the Bible, it talks about that you clear you seek first the kingdom within, because the kingdom is already there. You just have to get out of the way of that light so that light can flow into you and fill you. There you are.
I wish I could have heard that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dang. You'll hear it, I guess, with the recording. I'm sorry.
We'll get it on when it's published. When I've edited the audio, we'll all get it.
I
But
heard it.
I heard it in a very distant way, but I did
Oh,
hear it.
man. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I have two that are kind of a little bit, well, at odds with how difficult things are. And I would guess that the ease with which these came were invitations to begin the process of working hard at it. One happened right after my father had died, and I was teaching in a school. The art teacher came in. She still looks like Alice Walker, the great African American author. And anyway, she's an art teacher, and she came in to pay her condolences. And we're talking, and she says, I used to read poems, and so I stick out my left hand. And I said, okay, well, tell me something. And she looked at it for a moment, and she says, well, your father invented something that he got a prize. This was among other things that she was saying, but this was the most salient memory I have of that little experience. Looked at my palm, said, your father invented something and won prize or won some money for it or something. And I said, well, okay, I'm not familiar with that. And she said, when you go back for the memorial, ask about it. Actually, I think she said, well, ask your dad. And I said, well, okay, Vicky, that's, obviously not possible. That's when you came in to, pay your condolences. My father has passed away. So, but anyway, long story short, I'm asking my mother, and I said, Mom, did Dad ever invent anything that he got a prize for or won some money for? She goes, no, I don't remember that. And my brother-in-law, my older sister's husband, who is in the kitchen, hears me asking that, and hears Mother answering that no, she doesn't. And he said, oh, yes, sir. Don't you remember that he invented this thing when he was working, the Bangor, the Trident Sub Base in Bangor, Washington, and that he had gotten an award and a stipend. And she said, oh, yeah, that's right. I forget. Okay, so how would Vicky, the art teacher, who apparently knows nothing about my family, know something that my mother had forgotten that had to have her memory jogged? There is some sort of energetic field, some matrix in which that kind of information is accessible. That, to me, represents the wholeness reality, the dynamic nature of reality. Second, quicker little episode. I'm on my way to acupuncture appointment, and it was somewhat for some physical ailments, but another part of it was just trying to help me get more centered spiritually. And right by, I'm traveling west on I-70, and right by where the old Stapleton Airport used to be, just like a teletype, the old fashioned teletypes coming across my vision are the words Kuan Yin. And I thought, what? Kuan Yin? I have no academic, informational reference point. Historically, I have no knowledge about who or what Kuan Yin is. So I just happened to get to my acupuncture appointment and asked this person, I said, do you have any idea of it? And she said, oh, yeah, Kuan Yin is the bodhisattva of compassion. So here we go again. Information, knowledge, data, whatever, wisdom that seems to be in this energy field of life that is completely bereft of connections for a person, but leads to at least greater understanding and is accessible to somebody else that can hopefully lead to some growth, learning, experiences that really would make this kind of uh, uh, life understanding, wisdom, consciousness more available on a consistent basis, not just these little special episodes, but something that can be lived almost all the time. So those are two. I've got several others, but those are the two that really kind of stand out for me a lot of times. Just total unawareness, no knowledge about a couple of incidents, but yet here is the access to that knowledge. So I don't know, Kayleen, I guess you were the only one we were missing at this point. If you had something to share on that.
No, not really. I mean, nothing really came to my mind that I wanted to share at this moment that jumped out at me, but not at this moment.
Okay, that's good. That's fine. And these could be experiences that you've heard about from other people that you know are absolutely credible. That, for instance, all of the experiences that we've had recorded over the centuries from these mystic masters that are, completely verifiable. One of the things that just comes off the top of my head as a recollection is just not too long ago, I was watching a Netflix series, 6-part series called Surviving Death. And in that, I think it was episode 6, they're detailing the research done by the University of Virginia. And I think University of Virginia has been doing research on reincarnation for about 50 or 60 years now. And a lot of these experiences have occurred with younger children, just past toddler age, somewhere between 4 and 6 or 4 and 8 years old. So anyway, they trace this one kid that now is an adult, and most of the information that he was providing about this former life that he had had, and the details that, of course, no one would even know. And in fact, some of his family members of the deceased person didn't even know or were aware of, and how they showed verification for a lot of that stuff. That there are many layers of reality, many layers of understanding and experience that seem to verify this perception of wholeness that we're kind of talking about, that seem to confirm for us this energy field of the lack of subject object, that there's all of this available to us when we're ready to be of higher mind. So it could be experiences like that too that kind of stick out for you, for anybody, not just Kayleen. I wasn't trying to isolate Kayleen here, but um,
Well, I think the best evidence for cosmic consciousness, besides our own personal experiences, are all of the psychics that are clearly tapping into a highway of information. And I regularly meet with psychics, and I'm always amazed. And I think we're all psychic, and sometimes you can tap into that. Like the first time I picked up a pendulum, I was blown away. Like immediately it started, it's like, can I ask you a question? Yes. This is yes and that's no. I mean, I was blown away first time. So I think we all have it. Our ego, again, just wants us to be on that horizontal bar. Um, and we have to believe and engage. Yeah.
Earlier, Cindy, you said something about the that implied quantum entanglement. You talked about quantum physics, the dark matter, the dark force, and when we look at that, I interpret that as like the Akashic record. It's the great collective unconsciousness, maybe the genetic memory of the human species, but then that also connects with the consciousness of the earth and the universe itself, because everything is conscious. And that when that palm reader came, Dan, can you hear me at all?
yep.
Okay. When that palm reader, you held out your left hand and she said, "Oh yeah, your dad invented this stuff." She was reaching into the field, the quantum field, and pulling out information. And I don't know the mechanics of it because it's ineffable. I don't think you can know. You just know when it happens that somebody has done it, or that you yourself have done it. But it's about the quantum entanglement. If you're observing something or you're thinking something, it may be affecting something else thousands of miles away.
There is a whole field, of course, of academics, scholars that discount or disregard or think that most of this is just simply psychological projection and that there is no real substance to this whole set of notions, ideas, experiences of cosmic consciousness, that a lot of it is either, it's just fantasy or air sauce and wind soup. It's airy fairy stuff. Um,
Yeah, but
uh,
that begs the question, what is the fodder for your imagination? Because this is something I've been perplexed by, right? Because yes, you could say, oh, you just made that up. Well, where does all that ability to make things up, like your dreams? You put on 2 or 3 8-act plays every night. I mean, where does that all come from? And I don't remember. Oh, I know, it's the Course in Miracles. They say that all dreams are based on fear, and even though they may be presented in pleasant ways, the root of all of it is fear. So we have very active imaginations, and is that some link to that highway of consciousness? Right. It's like my dreams. I haven't done all of those things I dream about, and all the people and the cast of characters and the changing time frames and scenes, and it's fascinating. So I think somehow your dream life and your imagination are part of this.
I would agree with you. I mean, I think the weird thing that's happening is like you were talking about the psychics and how in tuned everybody seems to be right now. Like, I don't know if you've noticed it, but even on YouTube, if you search YouTube, it's
Yes,
crazy. Like,
yes,
everybody is just in tuned with like this world happening right now. And I don't even know where I was going with this, but I was going somewhere else besides where I'm going right now. But I I've been kind of like watching, what's happening with some of these psychics and following them. And I've also noted that my own dreams have been so vivid lately. Like, I mean,
yes.
crazy vivid. Like, I've never, how they've never been before, like I don't remember all of them, but I know they're vivid. And sometimes when I do wake up, I'm like, wow, like, was that just a dream? I mean, I just know that I'm dreaming a lot more. I'm aware of I'm just aware of more things, I think. I also think that we can be in tune to others. Like, for example, myself and my wife, we are so in tuned. It's insane. Like, we finish each other's sentences, we do things the same. I mean, this is going to sound crazy even, but we do game together. So, we could be playing like it's like a 6-on-6 game, and we'll actually move together. And we'll just be like, oh my God, get out of my way. Okay, listen, you stand on this side, I'll take the right side. Because even in the in game, you can't, it's like this. It's the weirdest thing. And I just have been taking note that more people are in tune to the universe right now, I think, than has ever been. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been, I mean, paying attention to the news in the last 24 hours. Look at all the people that were out.
Yep.
Just
Yes,
all the
I
people
was
that were
out.
out yesterday. And it wasn't just the US, it was everywhere. It was a
5
worldwide thing.
million in the
Yeah.
US, they
Yeah.
estimate.
Five
Yep. And
Yeah,
million.
it was a worldwide thing. I mean, it was happening in Italy, it was happening in the
yeah.
UK, it was everywhere. And I just think that that's us as a whole finding that consciousness somewhere that we all like belong. It's happening right now. I don't know how long it's going to take. I just feel like we're a part of something larger than maybe even a lot of us realize. And I think that there are going to be people that are just going to be left behind.
That's exactly right. We're collectively going through an awakening as we leave the Piscean age going into the Aquarian age. We're being called to a higher level, and we're sick and tired of the oppression and warring and domination
Yeah.
and everything trickling to the top instead of to the bottom. So yes, we're definitely going through a transformation as a species.
That's right, Cynthia, the hands off movement. Yeah, that's what yesterday was. Absolutely. And I just kind of, I don't know, I just feel like as a whole, we're moving somewhere. I was thinking about, what you were saying earlier, Dan, about expression and how some people express themselves. I am a poet. I just don't, it's not that I talk about it much. It took a long time for me to even, I guess, put it out there. I did write a book. It's not in publication right now. It's called The Storm Inside My Calm, a book of poems. And I was just thinking about one in particular that I wrote in there about my fear of death. And I had completely forgotten about it. But I myself am trying to move towards, and I think I have moved towards. I kind of went through this thing. Gosh, I don't know. Maybe it was like 15 years ago. I don't know. But I went through this I don't know if anybody else has gone through this, but I went through like this extreme fear of death. Like I started freaking out, kind of like I didn't even want to go to the gas station. I didn't even kind of want to leave my home. It was weird. I just went through this whole thing. And so I wrote about it, but it hit me for a few months. And you know, we were kind of talking about experiences, right? And I know that, you know, we have talked about this in our other groups, how we all have different beliefs, right? Like I'm a pagan and I believe that you can send back bad energy that someone has sent to you. And there was this time where we had this friend where this guy, I mean, did some bad things to her, and we wanted to send that bad energy back. And there were four of us, and we had this candle, and it was like in this, you know, almost like a cake pan. We put the candle in there, and we did like this ritual. And I have never in my life seen anything like this, or um, I guess felt the energy between the four of us, that candle, and I promise you this really happened. I mean, see, sometimes your mind, you're like, I don't know if this happened, but there were four of us that seen this. It was a candle of like a man, you know, it was like the shape of a man, and it was black, and that thing burnt down within 3 minutes. And I'm talking, the fire was almost touching the ceiling in like an office, in like a home office. And I've never seen anything like that, but I experienced it, and that candle burnt down quick. I mean, like it was nothing in that. It was just a blob. And so I think that we all are capable of harnessing that energy that is out there, using that energetic force. And it wasn't like we were just sending back the negativity, you know, and I have never seen anything like that. And that kind of scared me out of my own beliefs for about 3-4 months. And it took a long time before I came back to that group because I was in such disbelief that that occurred, even though I saw it with my own eyes. And that's an experience that I had.
Well,
Um,
there you go. That's a
yeah,
great.
and it wasn't just me. It was actually with one of the other members of this group that who is not here right now. But I experienced that with this person, and it was a long time before. I don't even know when we finally discussed it, but it was. I've just never seen such power. So I think that we can harness into this energy that is out there, and you know, I think it can be used for good. You know, we all talk about, you know, some people talk about good and evil, light and dark. I think it's the same thing, but it's just how you see it. You know what I mean? Like in the Bible, right? It would be, you know, God, I guess, and Lucifer, right? And or Jesus and Lucifer, whoever. And then, you know, for me, it's dark and light. You know, for some people, it's good and evil. So I just think it's the way you interpret things. But I think that we're heading into a place of light. I think that we're more than one person is going. I think we're all going as a collective, but I don't think everybody gets to go because I just don't believe everybody is where I think we're all on different levels. And I just think that certain people are never going to get past, I guess, what's happening in the United States today. You know?
Yes, and around the world. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Because I think it's a world thing. I don't think it's not just a United States consciousness. It is a world consciousness. I mean,
yeah.
look at it. Look at what is happening. When have you ever heard of Serbians being out in the street like that? When have you ever heard of, you know, I mean, even Germany's out there. Everybody is out there. And it's just quite interesting how that I'm interested to see where we'll all be as a group, just in our little group, right? Where we'll all be at the end of 25 and what we will see just in this year. I
Yeah.
think this is the year that we are actually physically seeing it, if that makes sense.
Yep.
It does.
Yes, and you know, and I think duality in religion has not been a positive. This whole idea of heaven and hell, or God and Lucifer, or whatever, it's not served us well, and we have to move away from that and think more as in unity, as oneness, because that's that's really what it is. It's a oneness. We always want to divide and put
Right.
people in categories as a way to control them and
And
manipulate
conquer.
them.
Yes. When you said
And
divide, I thought divide and conquer. Yeah.
yeah, and
You're on the right track.
it's pitiful. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been some of my experiences with this
And
kind of stuff.
that gives us hope, right? We can look forward because we know that there is this great awakening that's going on, and it's empowering. And in fact, I mean, it even makes you wonder if this isn't going to lead to the infinite energy source, right? Because this is such intense energy. If it could be harnessed, and we totally move away from the need to have power companies and fossil fuels and raping the earth, if we can just tap into the cosmic energy as a limitless source of energy, because that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. The universal energy is there. Yeah. I mean, I'm also a Reiki master too. So, um, I believe in energy healing and all that stuff. And I think sooner or later, Mother Earth, I think Mother Earth is trying to heal herself,
Yes,
I
trying
mean,
to wake us up.
yeah, I mean, as I was driving just the other day, I looked over and I was like, wow, look at the streets. Look at what we have done to this planet. I mean, they are covered. What's underneath that is natural growth, right? We have stunted the natural growth of our own planet. If you really think about it, with the buildings, the concrete, you know, where does it go? Where does it have to be? It has some place to be, just like we have some place to be, right? With the hustle and bustle of every day.
Right, right. And we have to come back to um, community instead of, we've all been raised to be individuals in our little stovepipe with our ego urging us forward, but we have to come back into community and oneness.
Cynthia just put something in. I'm not able to. Somebody want to read Cynthia's
I could,
post
but
on the
y'all
chat
can't
room?
hear me. Just
Yes, sure. It says, think some of, so she's talking about think some of this in response to the Antichrist number one and the Antichrist number two. That's what I call them, 45, 47, and Musk.
ah.
There you go. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're a Christian, any Christian should see that.
Well, I there's a higher truth though that some I think certainty. There's always going to be somebody who's so absolutely certain of their truth. Like back to what Dan was saying about scientists earlier. They're so certain of their own truth that they can't see beyond that. And it seems to me that the root of all evil is this idea that I'm going to force you to think the way I do or to dance on the end of my string, whereas what we need to do is be respecting each other and our autonomy and understanding how connected we really are, not just with each other, but with all life. And what you just said about being in traffic, Kayleen, and you looked out and you look at what we've done to the planet. Yeah, and see, I think this awakening is getting us out of that. It's getting us beyond this idea that we have to have this oppression that we have to be under the boot of these billionaires and people. That's why 5 million people just in the United States hit the streets. It's like, no, we have to get beyond this. We have to get back to the garden, if you'll permit that euphemism. But I really think that, like Buddha, when you think about Buddha, he presented reincarnation as a fact, but at the same time he denied it by saying, yeah, but there's going to be a time when we no longer need that because we will have uplifted our consciousness to the point where we don't need to come back here. And that's what's happening now. This awakening that's going on, this new age of Aquarius. I've been noticing a lot of vivid dreams on
Mm,
my behalf, and just synchronicity and a lot of experiences that I'm having, and I know you're having them too.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I think there are a lot of synchronicities happening. I don't think I stumbled onto this group by accident. Um, someone, Barbara talked to me about this group for a long time, but I don't think I was ready at that time, right? And so, um, I think I showed up when it was time for me to show up, and I love it because we're all eclectic, and everybody has their own beliefs, but I think at this point we are all seeing each other as humans, and I think that's been the world issue, right? I mean, we all know this. The world issue is, one group has to dominate another group, and that's not really even necessary because we're all part of that same group. And until we as humans, as a collective and as a larger group see that, we're going to continue down the road that has been forever, right? Like, um, I don't know. You look at the United States. It's not that old. It's not that old at all compared to other places that I've been or that I've gone to. And I look at their culture and I'm like, holy crap. I mean, look at this. This is amazing. I mean, these people are talking thousands of years, Cynthia says, what we will have learned what we need to learn to save ourselves and our world. That's a good point. That's a great point. Yeah.
This stuff pops up in very interesting circles, and many of these circles are things that were just totally out of our realm of awareness or experience. A few weeks ago, I was at the Tucson Festival of Books on the campus at the University of Arizona, and I'm going to a few breakout sessions. It's almost like being in college, but you're going to these breakout sessions, um, all day long, almost every hour. You can go see somebody different. So it's a little bit like being in college. And there was a gentleman there by the name of Stanley Melford Jr., who is a Cree Cherokee. And he happened to have been in medical school at the University of Arizona, but got a call from when I no, I take that back. He's a Cherokee Navajo. He might have a little Cree blood in him, but anyway, he got a call from a friend or relative, somebody on the Navajo reservation, saying they needed a park ranger there. And so he begins to have these experiences of skinwalkers and coins materializing out of midair and dropping to the ground. It's just all of it. And so he wrote a book with a partner called The Paranormal Ranger. And to reinforce this whole global phenomenon of higher mindedness awakening, he has toured the world with this partner talking about this book. And apparently, the book, or at least his experiences, have inspired a TV program. And I'm not sure if it was called Dark Skies or what it is.
We watched
That's the
that.
show that came to mind, but I'm not sure that that's the show that's related to Milford. But this, it's almost a serious version of Ghostbusters, that we have the awakening of all of these spirits and people globally. I mean, you're talking about protests in Serbia, for crying out loud. When's the last time we even heard of protests in Budapest, Hungary? This is real. This is happening, and people are getting it at a visceral level in ways that they may not even be totally conscious of, but it's compelling them to do things that they probably wouldn't have ever done before in their lives. Being a part of these protests, or at least having connections with people that are of same mind and heart. And so that's that's is the ripple effect of all of these kind of experiences. Um, I see that Cindy just posted in the chat room that she had to go, so we're sorry to have lost her. But we're probably nearing the end of our podcast for today anyway, and we may have to revisit this when we can do it without all of our technical snafus. But this has been fruitful in any regard. So, thanks, Cynthia, for the thumbs up. Thanks for posting. At least we had the chat room to be able to share some of your comments. So, does anybody have any other final words before we go? I'll do a little sign off, and then we'll, if everybody would stay on just for a moment, we'll talk maybe about possibilities of overcoming some of these technical issues in the future. So, anybody else? Final words?
Oh, I'm good. This has been great.
No, thank you for having us. This has
Yeah,
been
this is great.
a good conversation. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good. Well, this has been the Cosmic Consciousness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel Sage. We're pleased to have been joined by Cynthia Barnes, Kayleen Granado, Patrick Hollowell, and Hollowell, not Hollowell. People say that about you all the time. I've known you for 50 years, and I could have messed up my own name and got yours correct. Pat Hollowell and Cindy Orser, who just left a little early. But until next time, everyone, peace.